Does anyone have anything that they'd like to ask or anything they'd like to share based on the recent posts that I've been making?
Yeah, maybe if I can shortly.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't know if it's from one of your recent posts. I'm even not sure if you wrote it, but something on the along the lines of you have no free will, you are free will.
Yeah.
That's with me the whole day. It's really a impressive statement somehow. Can't describe what it does because it's somehow beyond words, but yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for bringing it up. Um, but yeah, if anyone what needs an elaboration on that, I don't want it to be misunderstood, but the whole uh, any confusion that happens in this on the spiritual path is always down to one thing. It's down to the fact that there is no absolute thing that we are. And that thing that we are is synonymously the absolute. That's what makes it absolute. It's the absolute. It's the emptiness that creates space for the absolute fullness of experience. But then the minute that we recognize and explore the fullness of experience, we see that the fullness is made of emptiness. The minute that we go to the emptiness, the deeper we go, we create the fullness. It's not, we're not this static thing, except we are static because you can't really have static implies stationary, but stationary also implies there's a location to be static in. So again, this is why this any way to any ability to comprehend it with the mind isn't futile. It's necessary so long as it's based on the based on the so long as it's based on the premise that we have recognized the absoluteness. Example, like I couldn't just say to anybody who walks by on the street that you are absolutely everything, because it wouldn't make any sense. Um, but once we see the absolute, it leaves an openness in our experience to then say, okay, because think of it like this: if there is someone could say to me that we're having a conversation, and that there is no experience. There
Yeah,
is
you
no
can.
experience
Yeah.
actually happening. It's all just
That's
consciousness.
right.
But the problem with that is that even though that's true, we're still having a conversation about it. You see? We're still having a conversation with language, the language we call English, and we're on a mobile phone. There's still this aspect of experience. So when we deny that experience is happening, we're denying a very important part of reality, the actual part of reality that we enjoy doing. You see? So it's like, yes, it's not fundamentally real, but the minute that you go to the fundamental reality says, but I make it real. That is creation. That's the infinite reality. We have that power to make reality real. We are reality. You see? So this is how we're both free will, yet we have no free will. Because to say we have free will is to say almost like we have a choice. And to say we have a choice is almost to say that there are options to choose from. But there are no options. It's freedom so profound that it is birthing from an absolute place of infinite possibility. You can't even consider it possibility because that still implies that there's possibilities. So when you look at it from that point of view, it's better than free will. Free will is a question only asked on behalf of an individual self, but this is far beyond the experience of an individual self. I love that cat. Oh my God, there's more. Oh my gosh, I need more cats in my life. I need a stable living condition first before I'm far too up and about. But I love that. So essentially, free will is greater than we can actually imagine. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Tobias. Based on that, let's do a meditation and then we can have a conversation afterwards. So in your experience right now, notice the aspect of your experience which is being it. You are being it. You are being your experience. Someone told me before that they'd had a DMT experience, and they told me that they broke through the veil, if any of you know what I mean by when I say that. And they said that they were taken to this gigantic, like orb-like god that was just like the size of like a planet, and it was just this golden, glowing, like beautiful giant orb. And he just said it was filled with love, and he told me that it was just it. He said that was it. It had this it energy. And when you think about it, whenever we use the word it, we say, that's it. I get it. Now it makes sense. And when he told me it was just so random. What do you mean it was it? That was it had it energy. But actually just process right now what the it energy actually is. This itness. We talk about being, we talk about I am, but just for a moment, literally think about it. All the cats are here today. They know Sasha's around. I love cats. You might have seen it in the thing where I included cats and dogs. I was just generally curious to see how many cat lovers would join the community. Um, so just realize that you're being it. This experience that we're having, you're it. That's it. You've got it. And that it energy is God. That it energy is God energy. It is God. To say that there's God energy is to almost imply that there's some type of God has an energy. God's got a good vibe about it. But this isn't God having an energy. This is God. God is it. That it energy is, that's it. It is everything. It is something, it is nothing. It is a miserable cold day. It is also a fantastic summery day. It is also a flight to Brazil. It is also a flight to London. It is also happy. It is also sad. It is also infinite. It experiences limitation. It never experiences limitation. It is experience. There is no experience for it to be, yet it is experiencing. It is fluid. It can create an abundance, or it can create an abundance of lack. It is reality. It is pure creativity. It is profound. It is love. It is wisdom. It is simple. It is complex. It is silent. It is loud. It is unseen. It is also so obvious. Which is why, for no matter who you ask, it is always what it is. No matter who you ask, it will be what they say. It doesn't care what it is and what it isn't. It is more interested in exploring. It doesn't mind what happens, but it minds when it wants to. It is choiceless aliveness. It is also the choice to live. It is a paradox. And knowing that removes the paradox or dissolves the paradox. But a paradox cannot be resolved. That is the paradox. And that paradox we call a harmonious. A harmonious paradox, no more looking for a definitive thing to be. We are simply it. We are that. We are being it. Whatever we are, we're already being it. Someone asked me, what are you? I answered, it depends. It depends when you ask me. Sometimes I'm driving a car, sometimes I'm walking down the street, sometimes I'm overly at joy, sometimes I'm a little bit impatient, sometimes I'm a human being talking to my girlfriend, sometimes I'm just being. Sometimes I am a blink, sometimes I'm a sensation, sometimes I'm a sound, sometimes I dissolve into perception, and sometimes I'm pure, unwavering, unmoving stillness. And the paradox is that I'm always that unwavering stillness, which is what allows the fullness of my experience for me to be all of those things. I'm never not that emptiness. I'm never not that stillness. I'm also never not the noise. I'm never not the movement. We are never not the movement. We are never not the noise. That is the essence of experience. We can be an intertwangled nonsense, and we can be a perfectly straight makes sense. We can be the simplicity of a cup of tea. We can be the complexity of a clock. If we always did a good job of simply being what we are at any given moment, we wouldn't find as much suffering. We find suffering takes place when we want to be something that we're not. The moment we seem to be suffering and we want to not be suffering, well, we will be suffering. If we find in the moment we are being suffering and we choose to be suffering, you will find paradoxically that you will not be the suffering, because you will be doing a very good job of what you're doing. And in that moment, there is no resistance. So technically, you'd be doing a terrible job at what you're doing if you wanted to resist, which is what suffering is. Do you see that paradox and how suffering is instantly evaporated? Just going to rephrase it. We suffer when we want to be something that we're not. So if we're being suffering, then we must continue to resist. But if we did a really good job of suffering, we'd have to choose to resist. And the minute we choose to suffer, we welcome the experience by nature of giving ourselves that freedom to suffer. And in that moment, because we've just opened ourselves to that experience, we start doing a terrible job of suffering, because suffering requires resistance. So the minute we open ourselves up to it, the suffering disappears. So we can rest assured if we're just simply being what we are at any given moment and just doing a very good job of it, that's where the freedom lies. We are that which is always giving, and you've heard me say this a million times before, giving our experience the freedom to be. We're giving our experience, anything, the freedom to be what it is. That is what existence does. Its day job is to simply give all things the freedom to exist. And it does it all for free. It's just giving all things the freedom to be. And notice that your experience has always been you giving your experience the freedom to be, even the experience of resistance and suffering. So let's just continue to be that freedom. Thank you. When you're ready, you can open your eyes, and if there's any questions or anything you want to share based on this meditation, you feel free to ask.
I really like these concepts of the paradox, both in your writings and today's meditation. I found that I don't know, just really kind of hits home for me. I've always loved the concepts of paradox, and even in kind of physical world and life, it's always been, made me curious about black holes and quantum mechanics and stuff like that. To think like there's, our physical life, um, but there's things that still can't be described in it through that. So
Yeah.
to have this existence, non-duality concept in those terms, like, oh yeah, that's exactly it. And that paired with harmony, which is something that I've also always loved. I love the concepts of, creation as parts of harmony, harmonious energies, um, and I just love harmonious singing, things like that. So this week has been wonderful. Really, really hitting home for me. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for sharing that, Oren. Appreciate that, man. I agree. I love black holes. I love astrophysics and quantum physics. Um, it's like a Francis. Some of you may know anyway. Francis Lucille. Um, he is a teacher who used to be a physicist and a mathematician, and so he kind of grew up with, or he was kind of conditioned with, the scientist paradigm, the scientific approach. Um, and what I found so interesting is that obviously he shares about consciousness and the ultimate quantum physics, which is that all things are one, which is kind of what we're talking about here. But he says that he still loves to explore the relative through science as a hobby, as just a fun way of just exploring and investigating. I just found that such a fun thing to say, which you would contrary to what you'd expect to hear. Well, why do I care about science? I know the truth is that everything is one. It's just a beautiful way of still finding such fascination in how things work in the relative world in that way. I'm totally on board with that. So yeah, I love what you shared, Oren. Saskia, it's a pleasure to meet you, by the way. I haven't introduced myself properly yet. We haven't had a onboarding call, but it's great to meet you.
When you talked about this golden thing this person had on drugs,
Mhm.
I experienced something like that 9 years ago without drugs. I just was standing there and heaven opened, like whoop.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was
Just as it
afterwards
does.
I couldn't speak for like weeks. It was hard for me to understand words. Like what are people talking about? But it's more like a memory, and I was searching for it everywhere. Like what was this? And and I did so many spiritual things that were nonsense afterwards, but and I found it mostly in non-duality teachings, like that resonated the most. But sometimes, like, why is nobody talking about this beauty? Mostly they're like very non-dual. You're not the person, blah blah blah. But the beauty and this it was so amazing. And when you say, yeah, that was it, like, yes. But after some weeks the world came back, like, and everything, and I started looking for it. And I was wondering, like, can this be like a stable experience, or like, can it be back, or you know what I mean? I know this is more true than what I'm experiencing now, maybe, but yeah.
Well, I wouldn't look for it to be a stable experience.
You cannot work with it.
And it's the most unstable experience. It's constantly the ever-present absolute of all things, everything, all at once, / absolutely nothing. So yeah, I know what you mean, though, in terms of a consistent a stable it's almost like what we really look for is like we want to consistently have this kind of state of mind. It's like a texture pack over it, you know. But it's always the same. But yeah, I understand you on that. I had the same experience, or similar experience, trying to put my finger on it, trying to find it, trying to get to the experience where it's right here, you know. It's not something we can find as an experience. And then it is experience at the same time. But until we see that, we have to first see that it can't be found as an experience. You know, it's a weird, like we've mentioned, it's a weird. It's not. It's an interesting process. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I wonder, Sasha, in your experience and what you described as just being the experience we already are, is there any form of shaping anything? Like in German, there's the word Gestalt. Do we like shape anything, like alive, or?
In what sense? Give me an example.
I think there are still a lot of occasions where I found myself in resistance with the circumstances I've created for myself, or there's the thought that I have created those circumstances, and they could be better or less stressful. So, and what you just like brought forward was this constant flow of like choosing the amount of openness somehow I have with what is happening at the moment. So I guess this goes back to the question of will. So do you shape your life somehow, or is it just happening and you experience it? Sorry, I think I can't get it more concrete at the moment.
I'm just processing what you asked. Just imagine for a moment that there's nothing. And then
Sorry?
just imagine for a moment that there's just absolutely nothing. And then imagine something came from that. Is that a limitation or is that a freedom?
That's a freedom.
It's an absolute freedom.
Yeah.
Every single moment is that, basically. Every single appearance is just basically that. So let me ask you another question. Back to the something coming from nothing, is that a choice?
Something coming from nothing doesn't feel like a choice. No.
It's technically not a choice, but that's the paradox. How can a non-choice be absolute freedom? But it is. That's every moment. Is that making sense?
Yes.
It's magic, like absolutely magic. Walking on water is pale in comparison to that. This is absolutely just magic. It's like we can't like we say, we can't put words on it.
Yeah, thank you. Can't put words on it again, but it does make sense.
And just to kind of follow up with that, what we are on a relative level of experience is we are like we experience in chronological order, right? We experience consequences. We know that if I leave a bottle, I know if I leave a bottle of water near me throughout the day, I will just go and drink it more. That's why I leave it there. So, but I know if I don't put the bottle of water near me, I probably won't drink it as often. I made the choice to put the bottle of water there to drink it more often, so that I knew that my choiceless self that wasn't making decisions, that was just picking it up randomly when it's seen it, would do it. So which one was the choice? You see, which one where does the freedom come from? Does it come from the me that put it there in my peripheral so that I would drink it more back in the past? Or does it come from the me that then actively chose to drink the bottle of water? I could have chosen to not, I can still choose to not drink it, you see? So when we think of choices on a relative level, what we're developing is this choicelessness. Like we're developing this, like think of the same freedom that emerged something out of nothing, right? That choiceless freedom. It's almost as though we are developing that as an experience on an experiential level. So it's almost like we're crafting the knowledge of choices to find choicelessness. And this choicelessness is absolute flow state, you could call it, absolute pure creativity. But it's not the same choicelessness as someone locked in a prison cell with an empty room who cannot do anything there. Do you see what I mean? Like people associate a lack of free will with, or a lack of choice with, you're just a puppet being controlled by something that is making the choices, or you're just a puppet being controlled by a raw mechanism that's just like a car that you roll back and you just let it go. It's not, nothing's moving it, it's just some mechanism making it move, right? It's neither of those things. It's neither, you're not, no one's being controlled like a puppet. It's not also not some mechanism that's some unintelligent like mechanical experience. It's not that either. It's just pure creation. continuously. And we have the experience of choices on the level that we make the choice, you see. So what we're doing is like, we're developing this experience of wisdom. Wisdom is like guided love. It's like love, if you think of love as just, it just spreads everywhere. If you can burn forests down with it, fires aren't going to choose which tree they burn, it just burns it all. Love is like that. It just freeing, loving, goes wherever it wants. Wisdom is like, it's like giving love a little guide, like it's just guiding that into experience, you see, letting, and the experience of letting, like guiding it, is more like, it's like having the experience of what we do with it. And it's like that freeing experience of just, instead of it being like choicelessness, it's more of like, oh, I'm now making the choice to do this. Even if we're not, it's like building that experience of that, which is, so you could then argue that all our experience is ever progressing freedom. It's the experience of ever progressing more and more freedom, perpetually, forever. I hope that wasn't too wordy. But
No, it wasn't.
Is it sounding clear?
It's feeling clear and sounding clear. I don't feel as eloquent today, maybe because of the physical condition to like signal my understanding, but thank you. I think there's a feeling of playfulness just coming back.
Yeah, playfulness. Like a child playing with new toys, like
Yes.
a cat just playing around, jumping around. You know, like, have you ever seen a kitten?
Yeah.
A kitten just jump around everywhere, just as exploring its body, exploring what it can do and what it can't do. You've seen some kittens just like fall off like a sofa or something. That's kind of like life. That's like what experience is like. It's just like doing it. It's like learning simultaneously. It's both learnt it all and knows nothing. You see, and it's like we're developing that we're just going through that process of like learning how we learned. You know?
Yeah.
Which is beautiful, because it's the best possible scenario, because it means we have autonomy to be like an individual, which is perfectly legitimate. And it gives us the support to know that, thank fuck, I'm not just doing it on my own. Thank the Lord, excuse my language, but thank God there is also, I'm being guided at the same time. You know, it's like the ultimate thing. It's like a child knowing that, oh yeah, I can just do whatever I want. My billionaire parents will sort me out if if I need it. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it's like.
Yeah.
Anybody else before we wrap up?
Yeah, hi, Saja.
Hey, JB, how's it going, man?
Doing all right. I think the biggest issue I keep running into, and it's just become frustration at this point, is I'm understanding, what you're posting and what other non-dual teachers speak about, but I just understand the concepts. So it's my mind, my ego that takes it in and understands it, but that's the opposite of what I'm going for here. And I fear without a genuine awakening, it's just going to stay like that. So I'm kind of hoping you can walk me to the edge of that cliff so that I can get there myself. Because I need to experience it. Without experiencing it, these just stay as concepts. It's just conceptual understanding.
Just reiterate what you said, because I think I missed a fundamental part of the sentence. You mentioned something about your ego.
It's just my ego understanding these concepts.
What do you
and
mean?
my mind understanding these concepts, but not having the actual experience and
Okay. Yeah.
not living it.
Okay, so it's like knowledge and not understanding.
Right.
Okay, so think of knowledge I'm not sure if you've seen the course material before, but if you haven't, and if anyone else haven't, if we think of knowledge as like an object, knowledge is like, I know what hello is in Spanish. It's hola. And knowledge is some form of object that we have to access somewhere, whether it's on a Google search, whether it's in a memory, whether it's somewhere on the table. It's some form of object that is retrieved by going somewhere with some form of effort. You know, like if I'm learning a song on the guitar, I need the chords. I don't have the understanding of the song. So I can't just play the song effortlessly. I have to look at the chords. My mind has to go, okay, this is where my thumb goes, my thumb. This is where my finger goes, this is where the other finger goes. And I'm like using then more reference points, which are finger, string, which string. Do you see what I mean? This is knowledge. This is like I'm using knowledge, right? I'm using objective experience. Understanding is like it's just being fluent in English. I'm not using any knowledge right now to speak English to you. I'm just talking. I don't even know how I'm doing it, to be frank. I don't remember when I even learned English, to be honest. So I don't have any, this is just pure understanding. You see, the most effort is a will. The most effort being done here is simply the will of it. So from that reference point, JB, where do you think you're at with what you understand? What to you feels like intellectual knowledge? And where is the border or the gap between that and understanding?
I feel like all of the information is just knowledge, but I can wrap my head around it. It's not confusing to me,
Okay.
but none of it is genuine understanding because it's not my experience.
Okay.
Without having first had an actual awakening, it's all just knowledge.
So give me an example of something. Is it like, give me some type of, so with that as the context, what would the overarching question be?
I'm just hoping you can kind of walk me to the threshold to have an actual awakening so that I can turn this knowledge into understanding and be, it be my lived experience rather than just, learning these concepts as concepts.
So I just want to make sure we're clear. Nothing I say right now is going to give you an experience. Nothing I can and will or anyone else says is going to give you an experience. That's the first thing. The second thing is that what is it that you specifically are referring to so that I can give you some pointers in the right direction? Like, give me an example of something in particular.
A true awakening, referred to as the backward step or awareness, recognizing awareness.
Okay.
The point at which all of this knowledge becomes lived experience.
Okay. So in this experience, are you, can you hear my words?
Yes.
So would you agree that you are aware in this experience?
Yes.
And when I asked if you would agree that if you're aware in this experience, to what did you refer?
Yes, I understand, Sajan. It's awareness, recognizing awareness.
Yes, but don't jump ahead. Just for the sake of the exploration, just follow along. Is that okay?
Okay.
So when you referred to awareness, where did you go?
Nowhere.
Okay. You arguably also went to awareness, right?
I am awareness.
Okay. Now, does that awareness have a limit?
No, no limit.
Okay. That's it. What more are you looking for other than unlimited awareness?
Being less mind and thought identified.
Okay. So mind and thought identified is not the problem. I identify with my thoughts all day. I identify with my feelings all day. I just don't believe that I am fundamentally the feeling of hunger, which tells me to go grab a sandwich, you see? I just don't believe that I fundamentally am um, the the thoughts that appear in my experience. So when you say I'm unlimited awareness, do you mean is that your experience that you are unlimited awareness?
No, I mean I feel limited awareness in
Okay,
this body, but
okay,
I understand conceptually that I am unlimited awareness.
okay. So now let's go back to the question. When you go to awareness, or when you go when I ask you the question, if you know that you're aware, where did you go?
Just being.
Okay. So this sense of being, does it have any border, shape, size, form?
No, none that I can feel. I mean, it does
Okay.
seem localized to this body.
Okay. So this sense of being, if it doesn't have a size, shape, or form, in other words, it's not an object, how could it be localized anywhere?
Well, it's just the only experiences I take in are
Okay.
seem very
So
localized.
so I'm having an experience of this office. Does that mean that the space in this office is the only space in this house?
No, just means that that's all you're aware of at this moment.
Exactly. Does it mean that this house has a different empty space to my next door neighbor's house?
No,
No, absolutely. It's the same empty space. Does it mean, however, that that which occupies the space is limited?
no, I guess not. But if all you're experiencing is that office, all I'm experiencing is this room, it
Yeah.
seems my awareness is limited to what
So
I'm
back
aware
to
of
what I asked you,
at
does it
this moment.
mean the space, the does it mean that the things that occupy the space, are they limited?
The things,
Yeah.
there are a limited number of things.
Yes. And the things
Yes,
are themselves limited, right? In other words, my laptop's here and it's not over there. It's got a limit, it's got a frame
correct,
rate, and it stands in time and space, right? So
correct.
what you're experiencing, the limit that you're experiencing is not the limit of awareness, it's the limit of your mind. In the same way that the space that occupies this room, it has no limit. However, the things that occupy the space do have a limit. So if I looked around this room and said, gosh, space is bloody tiny. Look at it. this can't be, how can the universe contain all this? How can this space contain all of the universe? That's not a limitation of the universe. It's a limitation of the room. And the room is contained in awareness, in the same likeness. Your mind is contained in awareness. And what you're experiencing from the level that you make that suggestion is your mind. That's not awareness.
Okay.
So when you say, I feel limited because I feel localized in this experience, it's the same as me saying space feels limited because it's contained in this room. But space isn't contained in this room. This room is contained in space. Consciousness is not contained by the mind. The mind is contained by consciousness.
Okay.
So the sense of limitation and localization you feel, it's not of awareness. It's the limitation of the mind.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
So the investigation from here, and we'll go through this more next session, is to recognize that not even the mind is actually taking place. The experience of the mind is just pure awareness, pure creation. It spontaneously creates it when it's there, and it's uncreated when it's not. And the substance of the mind, like basically the substance of your whole experience, is made of pure consciousness. And these meditations and the things that we've gone through, this is the path forward from there. It's just integrating this understanding that I'm infinite awareness and unraveling the seeming limitations on awareness, just like we just did, right? We had this conversational back and forth where we just altered the perception of what the limitation is. You see, things like that. This is thought yoga, right? This is to unify the mind with itself. And in that moment where you understood, that's pure awareness. That's understanding is that is at the absolute. That's pure awareness, pure understanding.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for asking, JB. Anybody else? I'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks, Aja.
Those that pop up, feel free to post them in the community. I'll get back to them when I can. Have a beautiful little day, folks in the US. And look at the cat in the back. What is going on? That cat is just fully just like staring over at the call, just like she thinks we're doing something weird. She's doing something weird. I love that. That's the coolest thing. Cool. Have a beautiful day, guys. I'll see you in the next one.
So do you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.